mindful of truth ever exceeding our knowledge, love greater than we know, and solidarity ever exceeding our practice. Reverently, we gather for worship, beginning with ourselves as we are, to share the strengths of integrity and the heritage of the Spirit, that we may know more truth, love more freely, and live in solidarity that strengthens each of us and through which we transform the world. I'm the Reverend Dr. Anthony Johnson, and I welcome you to this virtual worship service of the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. Because of the continuing danger of the coronavirus, the building remains closed. But the church is open, with a full schedule of programs and activities. Today and every Sunday, there is a virtual coffee hour following the service at 11:30 a.m. Please read news you can use and other emails you receive from the church, and please check the website regularly for updates. Please send your joy or sorrow in the link in the email you receive and indicate whether you give permission for it to be read in the following week's service. If you are a visitor or newcomer, I invite you to explore the website uchbg.org to learn about the church and its many activities. Whoever you are, wherever you live, whomever you love, whatever you do for a living, you are welcome at the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg.
I invite those of you at home to light a chalice or a candle, or whatever you choose to serve as your chalice at home. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joy and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, a sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration for the life that we share together. Please join in the reading of the unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the have the gift to believe that peace within our living is an answer.
Hello, my name is Corey, and I am your Director of Religious Exploration. Today's story is titled The Three Questions, written and illustrated by John J. Muth. There once was a boy named Nikolai who sometimes felt uncertain about the right way to act. I want to be a good person, he told his friends, but I don't always know the best way to do that. Nikolai's friends understood and wanted to help him. If only I could find the answers to these three questions, Nikolai continued, then I would always know what to do. My first question, when is the best time to do things? Secondly, who is the most important one? And third, and what is the right thing to do? Nikolai's friends considered the three questions. Then Sonia the heron spoke. To know the best time to do things, one must plan in advance, she said. Gogol, the monkey, who had been rooting through some leaves to find something good to eat, said, You will know when to do things if you watch and pay close attention. Then Pushkin, the dog, who was just dozing off, rolled over and said, You can't pay attention to everything yourself. You need a pack to watch and to help you decide when to do things. For example, Gogol, a coconut is about to fall on your head. Nikolai thought for a moment. Then he asked his second question. Who is the most important one? Those who are closest to heaven, said Sonia, circling up into the sky. Those who know how to help the sick, said Gogol, stroking his bruised head. Those who make the rules, growled Pushkin. Nikolai thought for some more. Then he asked his third question. What is the right thing to do? Flying, said Sonia. Having fun all the time, laughed Gogol. Fighting, barked Pushkin right away. Then Nikolai thought for a long time. He loved his friends. He knew they were all trying their best to help him answer his questions. But the answers did not seem quite right. Then an idea came to him. I know, he thought, I will ask Leo the turtle. He has lived a very long time. Surely he will know the answers I am looking for. So Nikolai hiked high up into the mountains where the old turtle lived. When Nikolai arrived, he found Leo digging in the garden. The turtle was old, and digging was very hard for him. I have 3 questions. I came to ask for your help, Nikolai said. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? Leo listened carefully, but he only smiled. Then he went on with his digging. You must be tired, Nikolai said at last. Let me help you. The old turtle gave him his shovel and thanked him. And because it was easier for the young boy to dig than it was for an old turtle, Nikolai kept digging until the rows were finished. But just as he finished, the wind blew wildly and rain burst from the darkened clouds as they moved toward the cottage for shelter. Nikolai suddenly heard a cry for help. Running down the path, he found a panda whose leg had been injured from a fallen tree. Carefully, Nikolai carried her into Leo's house and made a splint for her leg with a stick of bamboo. The storm raged on, banging at the doors and the windows. Leo smiled when he saw what Nikolai had done. The next morning the sun was warm, the birds sang, and all was well with the world. The panda's leg was healing nicely, and she thanked Nikolai for saving her. At that moment, Sonia, Gogol, and Pushkin arrived to make sure everyone was all right. Nikolai felt great peace within himself. He had wonderful friends, and he had saved the panda, but he also felt disappointed. He still had not found the answers to his 3 questions, so he asked Leo one more time. The old turtle looked at the boy. "But your questions have been answered," he said. "They have?" asked the boy. "Yesterday, if you had not stayed to help me dig my garden, you would not have heard the panda's cries for help in the storm. Therefore, the most important time was the time you spent digging in the garden. The most important one at that moment was me, and the most important thing to do was to help me with my garden. Later, when you found the injured panda, the most important time was the time you spent mending her leg. The most important one was the panda. And the most important thing to do was to take care of her and make her feel safe. Remember then that there is one important time, and that time is now. The most important one is always the one that you are with. And the most important thing is to do good for the one standing at your side. For those, my dear boy, are the answers to what is most important in this world. The end.
Hi, my name is Dan Vaughn. I'm one of 7 members of the Ministerial Search Committee for the congregation, looking for our next full-time minister. This is an arduous project. We've been working on it for many months, meeting at least once every 2 weeks, if not more. Smaller groups meeting more often. We're working really hard to make sure that we procure the very best candidates out there for our congregation's future. One of the ways that you can help as a member is to please be certain and fill out the congregational survey that you received in your email. This is vitally important for giving a good view to a prospective minister of what exactly we are looking for, and we need your voice. It will really help us out, it will help out the prospective minister, and it will better increase our chances of getting just the right person to serve our congregation at Unitarian Church in Harrisburg. So please do that. If for some reason you did not receive an email about the survey, please contact the church office and let them know, and we will be certain and get you that link just as soon as possible. Likewise, if you do not use electronic devices for such things, do not use email or whatever, and need a paper copy, also please contact the church office, and they will make certain and get a copy of that to you. This will take 15 minutes of your time. It's not that big a deal as far as your time goes, but it certainly is as far as the future of the congregation goes. So please make sure and fill out that survey. Take care. Look forward to seeing you all online or face-to-face at our next opportunity. Take care.
Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Shalom.
Good morning. I'm Libby Tisdale, your lay liturgist today, and I had no idea when I agreed to give reflections on my ongoing and lifelong spiritual exploration that I would be set up so perfectly by doing so right after the song anthem, which is a series of chants all sung at the same time from all the world's religious traditions. What a beautiful setup. Each of those chants I have sung separately on my own as part of my ongoing spiritual exploration and as part of my ongoing meditation, and continue to do so as part of my spiritual exploration. I also didn't know that I would be doing this reflection on the day of Yom Kippur, the Jewish Day of Atonement, one of the highest holy days of the Jewish year, which is today, the Day of Atonement, or At-One-ment. So today I'm going to speak a little bit about my own spiritual exploration, and I'm going to cast those remarks in light of the fact that today is also Yom Kippur. So if I were going to use a metaphor to describe my spiritual journey and my life's journey, I would say that it is a transformative pilgrimage journey. I see myself as a spiritual pilgrim. And in the summer of 2012, as most of you know, I walked the spiritual pilgrimage of the Camino de Santiago, which is a spiritual walk in the footsteps of St. James from the south of France all the way across the northwest Spain to Santiago, which means St. James. It was a transformative spiritual experience in many ways. And as part of the Christian part of my spirituality, I often say I'm a Christian Sufi, Unitarian, Universalist. And the Christian part of that is that I'm very connected to the Christian spirituality that's concerned about social justice. And so when I was walking, I felt like I was walking not only with St. James, but also with the likes of St. Francis. And I was so informed by the prayer of St. Francis, make me a channel of your peace, and about planting peace in every step was a centerpiece of that journey. The second metaphor, so the transformative pilgrimage journey metaphor is very important, but so is the metaphor of a kaleidoscope, because my spirituality is informed by many spiritual traditions. And even though I say I'm a Christian Sufi, Unitarian, Universalist, that doesn't really capture all aspects of my spirituality. So if we turn the kaleidoscope from Christianity and Catholicism, which is part of my foundation, I eventually found Unitarian Universalism. And I love the metaphor of a chalice because you use interest in all different religious and spiritual traditions, serves as a container for my own spiritual exploration. And that chalice I think of as serving as a container because I'm doing it in community. And that chalice also holds all of you in a spiritual community. So that's another important piece of my spirituality. The role of music has been incredibly important in all my entire journey of spirituality, and what ultimately led me to Sufism. Initially through the Dances of Universal Peace, which have their roots in Sufism, and I was initiated into the Sufi Ruhaniyat in 2007. And from there did a lot of exploration of the Sufi tradition, including the poetry of Rumi. I engage in heart rhythm meditation, which has its roots in Sufism. And while I teach it as a secular practice, and it is, I'm not just syncing my breath and heartbeat together. I am also meditating on a sacred phrase, different sacred phrases all the time. And one of them is the Sufi phrase, La ilaha illallahu, which means, it's one of the phrases that we sang, literally means, no God, God. No God, God. How can this be? There is no God and there is God. It's like it means it is all one. It is all one. Everything and nothing is all about unity. Which brings me to today being Yom Kippur. So today is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, or At-One-ment. I had no idea that I would be giving these remarks in the wake of the death of our beloved Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a Jewish woman who has certainly been such an inspiration to me and to many, many across the country. And Ruth herself was largely a secular Jew because she had some trouble with sexism of Judaism, but she did talk about how important her Jewish tradition was as she learned it from her mother. Particularly, the concept that was very important to her mother and to her was the concept of tikkun olam. The healing and the repair of the world is what that phrase means. And Nina Totenberg wrote this reflection about Ruth Bader Ginsburg that was sent to me by my beloved friend, our beloved friend Caroline Park. This is what Nina Totenberg wrote. A Jewish teaching says that those who die just before the Jewish New Year are the ones God has held back until the last moment, because they were needed most and were the most righteous. And so it was that RBG died as the sun was setting on Rosh Hashanah, just before the Jewish New Year, and only minutes before the Jewish New Year. So indeed, Ruth was held back, perhaps because she had a lot of work to do. Most of us wish that she could have held out a little bit longer so we wouldn't be worrying about who the next Supreme Court pick would be. But her work is so inspiring to me as a woman and to many of us, and to the fact that she always walked with justice in mind. In fact, she is said to have a plaque with a Hebrew phrase from the book of Deuteronomy, the Hebrew Bible, justice, justice ye shall do, written in Hebrew. And that was what Ruth is about. I know all of us are nervous about what is going to happen, about the Supreme Court decision and what is going to happen after the election. And so I would invite you to try to embrace the notion of paradox, the notion that in the many are one, the notion of unity, and to perhaps meditate on one of those sacred phrases that are paradoxical, because it is in the paradox that we get pulled open and maybe can creatively think of new solutions in the creative openness of our hearts. So we can think about Ruth's call for tikkun olam, and today is Yom Kippur, At-One-ment. So here we have the phrase of sacred unity again. At the close of the Yom Kippur service, they will be chanting the Shema Yisrael. The words to it are Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Ehad. And it literally means, listen, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. And so let's sing this together and to think of Ruth and to being inspired by Ruth. And in the many, we are one. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. One more time for unity with Ruth, unity for our country, and unity for the world. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai So here's to celebrating at one mint and to doing tikkun olam, the healing and the repair of the world.
Today in this congregation, someone is hurting or in sorrow. Today in this congregation, someone is anxious because of events in the world. Today in this congregation, someone is lonely. Today in this congregation, someone is filled with joy and wants to celebrate. For all the fear and sorrow in the world today, there are still moments of joy. One of our members asks us to join her in her joy. She is thankful to have passed the Cyber Information Systems professional exam. Today in this congregation, our longtime member, Mary Beth Williams, is gravely ill. And Randa Todd says, Mary Beth Williams is nearing the end of her brave struggle with Parkinson's disease. And Debbie Reihart asks us, please keep Mary Beth Williams and her family in your thoughts and prayers. She was an enthusiastic member of the Unisingers and is now nearing the end of her life's song. We wish her peace and grace on her journey. So we've heard these words of joy and sorrow. And whether or not we speak the names of those who have joy or sorrow, we extend to all words of love and trust. Love for those whose names have been spoken or not spoken, and love for those who hear. Trust in the acceptance of this community, and trust in the continuity of life. When there is birth, life goes on. When there is death, life goes on. When there is joy, life goes on. When there is sorrow, life goes on. May we always live in trust and love, that all joy might be shared and all sorrow comforted. Amen. Blessed be. In a person's religious life, some things are settled and then they are not. Some core principles are always operative, but conclusions change. Practices acquire meaning, they change meaning, and sometimes even lose meaning. This is what it means to be a practitioner of liberal religion. Today I speak to you of how the Church encourages and facilitates individual and shared spiritual exploration. I ask you to listen deeply to the words of the mission. The Unitarian Church of Harrisburg is an inclusive community of faith committed to welcoming and nurturing all with dignity and respect. We make a difference by encouraging lifelong spiritual exploration, equipping individuals for service, and empowering them to act for justice in the world. The statement, "We make a difference," introduces this sermon's focus on lifelong spiritual exploration. First, whom does the mission mean by we? The mission is not an individual statement, although many individuals contributed to its composition. This is a statement of the Church as a collective. The we is composed of all the I's in the Church. Individuals are engaged in and with the Church at different levels. Some members are more active than others, and most are active in different ways at different times in their lives. Some were formerly very active, but now, due to age or health, are not as active as they once were. The Church has friends. These are individuals who regularly support the Church financially and attend services and participate in other programs, but who have never signed the membership book, an action that is required in order to be a member. Members provide the core of support of the Church and serve in leadership positions as officers, trustees, committee chairs, and delegates to denominational and community bodies. The members are the ones who have the power to make decisions for the Church through the election of officers and voting on major issues. Just last week, you who are members voted to amend the budget for the current church year. Friends are also part of the we. They participate at a significant level, including financial support, but have never signed the membership book and do not have the right to vote in congregational meetings or to serve in elected or appointed positions where authority is exercised on behalf of the church. Some friends are active for a long time and may never join, or may join only after many years. Here is a story from a different congregation. Maggie was a longtime member of the congregation, although she had never joined the church. She was a friend. She was a civil rights and peace activist. Her late husband, Ernie, was African American. She was white. Their biracial children came up through the Sunday school. After I had been at the church for a few years, Maggie, who had long been widowed, called on the church office phone to speak with me. This is what she said. After 50 years of sitting on the fence, I'm ready to sign the membership book. The church is finally really integrated. She called me because the membership of the church had changed to better embody the justice principles it had long espoused and which she shared. She signed the book and for the remainder of her life was an active member. In short, for close to 60 years, for most of those first as a friend, but then as a member, she was part of the we of that church and of its Unitarianism. The we make a difference. First, in the lives of members, by providing a spiritual home, we make a difference in that people can find space where individuals and families can grow. The we of the church do this for themselves and for others. Second, in the world through the actions of its members. Most individuals make a difference in many and perhaps all parts of their lives. Within the family, in the town or city where they live, at their jobs, through political engagements, through voluntary organizations that have their own missions, and many more. The church also makes a difference through the collective actions of its members. For example, but not limited to, We March, We Act on Allison Hill, which this church initiated and supports. Members also turn out in force for actions for justice and support such groups as the Unitarian Universalist Pennsylvania Advocacy Legislative Ministry. We, as a people of faith, make a difference, individually and collectively. But what do we mean by lifelong spiritual exploration? Lifelong spiritual exploration supports the reality that a person's beliefs and commitments develop over time. Whether in childhood or adulthood, the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg does not require its members to affirm or a creed or other statement of faith. We have a vision for the world and the church. The church has a mission that enables persons to grow spiritually as individuals and for the church to grow as a church. And here, by enabling the church to grow as a church, I'm not talking about numbers of people. I'm talking about the quality of shared faith which the members, who may have widely divergent personal beliefs, share in making real through the vision and the mission of the church. I repeat Scottie Mclennan's definition of faith: an orientation of the whole personality. It's not just belief, the holding of certain ideas, but is much larger. It is the ability to experience the universe as meaningful. Having faith means that our lives hold together and make sense at a deep level, rather than seeming ultimately awry, askew, or absurd. How does the church encourage individuals to engage in lifelong spiritual exploration? In actions, the church encourages individuals by, first of all, inviting them to visit. The first step toward encouraging an individual's spiritual growth is an invitation to come to church. And there we present services and other programs that pique their interest and, as a second stage, provide opportunities for deep engagement. The church encourages individuals by challenging them to grow, whether they're longtime members, friends, or first-time visitors. Worship and other programs of the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg are designed to engage the members and friends and even first-time visitors in critical and clear thinking about their faith and how they live their lives. It is my hope that every worship service both lifts people's spirits and challenges them with a new possibility for growth. That possibility may be an idea about a belief, such as an exploration of what is God, or something about how one lives or acts in the world, such as a service about individual actions, whether personal ethics or the need to react to the world. Lifelong spiritual education is for everyone. Who in this congregation can say that their beliefs have always been the same, or that they have not changed their beliefs in their time in this church? When I became a Unitarian Universalist, I identified as a liberal Christian, taking seriously the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. I hold the conviction now, as I did then, that the teachings and the stories about Jesus matter more than whether he was human or divine by nature. In spite of the difficulties presented by the historical record, layered with contradictory opinions and stories, I continue to find the stories of Jesus and the origins of Christianity not only to be interesting, but instructive. I also include in my faith learnings from the study of Buddhism, from Hinduism, and Native American teachings and practices. And now I proclaim humanism as the practice of my primary spiritual identity, but not to the exclusion of the others named. They all fit together. The church invites people not just to listen or observe, the church invites them to engage and change. Lifelong spiritual growth is not achieved through the banking style of education, or one just takes in more and more information and ideas and lets them pile up. Spiritual growth happens when individuals engage with religion, whether through discussion, through ritual, or other practices. Through spiritual growth, you and I bring insights, ideas, and rituals into our lives, and we share them with each other. We learn anew and at the same time leave behind what we may have once believed and practiced, but no longer can. Asha Hauser is the president of the Liberal Religious Educators Association and part of the ministry team of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, the non-geographical Unitarian Universalist congregation with more than 3,000 members, a third of whom are presently incarcerated. She was raised Muslim and was a social worker before becoming a religious educator. Her story of lifelong spiritual growth can be inspiring. I want to read a page from her essay in the book Testimony, The Transformative Power of Unitarian Universalism. In this passage, she describes an experience as a church member before she began her career as a religious educator. I quote, "One unexpected part of my transformation as a Unitarian Universalist was an invitation to make peace with the religion of my upbringing. One day, an elder in the congregation asked me, 'What did you like about being Muslim?' I answered, 'Nothing. I didn't like anything and it wasn't positive.' She looked at me steadily and said, 'It couldn't have been all bad. You turned out fine. There must have been something good.' I said I'd think about it. I pondered that question for a few days, and I found an answer. I never internalized God as a man or even a person. I was raised believing that God is an energy and light that humans can't comprehend. This helped me to easily transition to our Unitarian idea of one source. I was also taught about the value of sacrifice, which comes from Ramadan, and the idea of voluntarily giving up food and water to reflect and more fully understand those who live in poverty. My mother instilled in me a deep sense of justice. No matter how little we had, we spent 2 years on welfare and food stamps. My mother always gave a little, always gave a tithe to remind us that someone else always has less and we always have more to share. When I thought about how the Muslim faith provided me with comfort and solace from the ideas of God is light and the importance of sacrifice, I had a profound realization that I carry with me an important part of my childhood faith while being a Unitarian Universalist. It is the pluralism of Unitarian Universalism that encourages my commitment to hold on to what is spiritually nurturing and let go of what is spiritually harmful." End of quote. So, spiritual exploration happens leading someone into this faith, and then continues, in this case, by being asked about the faith of origin, and coming to understand how that is still part of an evolving, growing spirituality. The Unitarian Church of Harrisburg makes a difference by encouraging lifelong spiritual exploration. If lifelong spiritual exploration is central to the mission, It must be central to everything we do in the church, inside or outside of its walls. It is central to worship, to classes for children and adults, to committee work, to volunteer opportunities, to sitting with the sick and the dying, to sitting with those who are lonely, helping each other, opposing injustice in the world. It is even an essential part of coffee hour. So in 3 weeks, on October 18th, I will conclude this sermon series with a sermon on equipping and empowering individuals to make a difference through service for action and justice. This will complete what I left unsaid today and conclude this sermonic exploration of the mission. But it will not conclude the living of the mission. Again, the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg is an inclusive community of faith committed to welcoming and nurturing all with dignity and respect. We make a difference by encouraging lifelong spiritual exploration, equipping individuals for service, and empowering them to act for justice in the world. This church is the creation of its members. Its mission is the creation of its members. Let the members and friends, all parts of the congregation, own it and live it out. Blessed be. Amen.
Even as you are separated and sitting in your own homes this morning, the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg is nevertheless a freely gathered church of free people. The church is created, sustained, and supported by you and me, the people of this congregation. The church is open even though the building itself is closed. Each week, we share the offering with a community organization. During the month of September, the recipient is the Unitarian Universalist Pennsylvania Advocacy Legislative Ministry, or UUPALM. UUPALM is a 501c3 organization who works with partners to provide analysis on issues of economic, immigration, and environmental justice in Pennsylvania. UUPALM educates opinion leaders and policymakers, UU congregants, and the public about issues that matter to UU values in Pennsylvania. UUPALM also works on leadership development with an emphasis on linking UU values and spiritual development of our advocacy. UUPALM is the educational arm of the UU Pennsylvania Legislative Advocacy Network, or UU Plan. There is a link for contributing to today's plate collection in the video description below. You may have to click on the words "Show More" to see it. The same link is in the email that members received this morning. Your financial support and commitment do matter, so please do be generous.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
However certain your beliefs, I call you to be ready to be challenged in them, to be challenged by them, to engage in lifelong spiritual exploration. Your personal faith and our shared free faith are not fixed for all time. They are alive and changing as you and I, as we are alive and changing. As part of this church, as people of a free and liberal faith, We are called to a life of spiritual exploration. Let us answer that call.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
The blessing of the truth be upon us. The power of love direct us and sustain us. And may the peace of this community preserve our going out and coming in from this time forth until we meet again. Amen. Blessed be.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside